What are the misconceptions people are having about capitalism?
One of the biggest and most common misconceptions is known as a zero sum view of wealth or life in general. By zero sum, I mean if you win, I have to lose. And if I win, you have to lose. The core reason why people come to believe in a zero sum view of wealth is because they have a false view of a fixed amount of wealth just exists. Then anytime they come across someone rich, their mental justification is you have too much because you stole from everyone else's fair share.
There are some people who are not capable enough to compete in a free market. They might not have got that education, or they haven't discovered their specialization where these welfare driven systems go wrong and where do they go right. People might get born in very unfavorable circumstances, especially if we start talking about the other gender, which is like women. Not a lot of them get education. For them, socialism really helps. So how can you take care of this scenario? I mean, if you start thinking towards capitalism and start adopting it, or do you think there should be a middle ground? Okay, we started with the ant and the grasshopper story. How is there is an unfair division of labor and effort and the rewards that people are getting within the society. And then slowly we sort of moved to different definitions. We spoke about prosperity, how some countries are more prosperous than the other, and what exactly is economic freedom or capitalism, and how exactly economic freedom leads to prosperity. Now we'll come to the society part of it, like basically our contribution, like what we can contribute towards having more economic free countries or capitalistic countries. Now, like you and me, let's talk about the middle class people. Okay. We generally tend to have more stability in life. We tend to choose safer careers, predictable incomes, or low risk initiatives. So first of all, like the mentality, the mindset of this, is it really protecting us or it is restricting our growth? What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, there is no one size fits all answer to whether an individual should prefer going like looking for a job or trying to start a business and so forth. But what I can say is that people are more likely to start businesses in places with higher economic freedom. Because everything else being equal, most people would want to open up a business where it's easier to do so and where the taxes are lower and so on, right? And so even if you are not the kind of person who wants to be an entrepreneur or start a business, you can't have jobs without businesses. So for that reason, economic freedom is relevant to you as well. And as we mentioned earlier, in the long run, you get laws that are popular, right? So now I can rephrase it as good laws are the ones that increase economic freedom. And while as middle class average people, no individual by themselves will likely change a lot of minds. But in the long run, there is all the difference between doing nothing versus understanding these concepts and, let's say, teaching it to at least two other people so that we do our part in popularizing it. And then after that, when the actual circumstances change, when people have more money in their bank accounts, right, when there is more prosperity, then maybe they have a different risk appetite. Maybe at that point, if they want to start a business, they're not going to be as scared of doing so, right? So that's sort of how it ties back into the typical situation that us people in middle class find ourselves in.
And what are the misconceptions people are having about capitalism? General mindset of people. What do they think negative about capitalism?
One of the biggest and most common misconceptions that I come across is known as a zero sum view of wealth or of life in general often. So by zero sum, I mean we can't both win. If you win, I have to lose. And if I win, you have to lose. As opposed to positive sum where we both win, or negative sum where we both lose. The core reason why people come to believe in a zero sum view of wealth is because they have a false view of a fixed amount of wealth just exists. A fixed pie of wealth just exists. Why? Again, because they are thinking of wealth in terms of money and they think the money just exists, right? They're not thinking of it in terms of the goods and services that have to be produced, right? So because they think that a fixed amount of wealth just exists, then anytime they come across someone rich, their mental justification is you have too much because you stole from everyone else's fair share, right? And so now I don't mind stealing from you because you being rich itself is proof for me that you are a thief, right? So it is because of this fixed pie mindset that people can end up making subsequent decisions in life. But again, we did see earlier that wealth has to be produced through specialization in trade, and trade is win-win. Both of us expect to win from it. That's why we agree to it. So that makes wealth positive sum, not zero sum, right? And so I would say that if you are becoming rich through trade, that's great. You're creating value for other people and they're rewarding you for it, which is how you want society to be. You want the most reward to be given to people who are creating the most value for other people.
So, do you think, like, even though they come to know the benefits of capitalism, there will still be some resistance towards adopting the capitalistic thinking or approach towards life? And I mean, is there some fear or conditioning already in middle class societies that there is some sort of hesitation, even though they know the benefits, but there is still some hesitation towards adopting capitalistic thinking? So, what suggestions do you have for them?
Yeah, I think there certainly is a lot of hesitation. I would say that capitalism is more unpopular than popular. And the reason for this, let's say there's a simpler reason and a more in deeper reason. The simpler reason is that our schools never taught us what capitalism is. They at best provided us with like a caricature of it, while also the entire culture and schools, they expose us to very strong objections to that caricature of capitalism. So the combined effect of that is that, yeah, you just don't want to be pro capitalism. But there is a deeper reason here in terms of sort of like the moral values that people end up adopting. And it does relate, at least to some degree, to the zero sum view of wealth, which is that, look, again, if I imagine that I end up believing that there is a finite amount of wealth, and if I take too much of it, then I'm taking away someone else's share. Now now I'll feel guilty about my own success, right? So I'm getting a mixed message, let's say while growing up, that, hey, you have to study hard, work hard, be successful. But at the same time, the best actions are the ones that selflessly help other people, right? So you're getting this mixed messaging to you, and that's coming from the fact that you think, hey, you don't want to win too much because that means other people will lose, right? But if you understood how wealth is produced, then there is no conflict, there is no mental conflict, right?
Yeah.
I want to trade with you because we are both better off, and I don't want to steal with you because we are both worse off.
Now, so we spoke about capitalism and economic freedom in detail. Now, let's start like seeing it from the other angle. Okay. So, if we just try to introduce a little more morality or like moral angle to this, there are some people today who are not capable enough to compete in a free market. They might not be that qualified, or they might not have got that education, or they are simply they haven't discovered their specialization or their talent, so they are not capable to compete. Now, in those kind of situation or circumstances, socialist or welfare driven systems really take care. They give that safety net. I would like to ask you, what do you think where these welfare driven systems go wrong, and where do they go right? Because so people might get born in very unfavorable circumstances. They might be really poor, they might be handicapped, there might be different reasons, why they are not able to get that education, or they might not be in a country which is sort of favoring education, especially if you start talking about the other gender, which is like women. Not a lot of them get education, right? They are not qualified. So people like them won't be able to actually compete and earn money through their hard work and through their qualification. So for them, driven system or socialism really helps. So what do you think, like, how can you take care of this scenario? I mean, if you start thinking towards capitalism and start adopting it, or do you think there should be a middle ground?
I am very clear in not being pro a middle ground here, although I understand that in life there are many circumstances where a middle ground is appropriate. But just to give you like a flippant example, I would not choose a middle ground between having food and poison in my plate. I only want food in my plate. I do not want any poison in my plate, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but there is a lot to unpack here. So let's go at it one layer at a time. The first thing I would say is morality is absolutely very important, but we have to be data driven to begin with, because what is someone's moral code if they want to reject the system that creates prosperity for everyone, while also minimizing coercion in society. So meaning, well, if if someone is being denied opportunities legally, right? So for example, maybe in apartheid in South Africa, like there were laws against black people being able to apply for certain jobs or do certain things in society, right? So the idea of economic freedom is, no, you cannot stop people from pursuing a life that is by mutual consent to mutual benefit. So it applies to racism, sexism, all of these things, right? Let's say in Afghanistan, women might be facing problems related to like not being able to get an education or many other problems, but just to take one example. So again, that is also contrary to the spirit of economic freedom, right? So let's have that one thing on the side. But now let's also talk about, like, suppose you are just unfortunate not because of laws against you, but just because of, let's say, some accident or disability, or you were born to poor parents, or you tried your best but you just failed, right? Like many things can happen to us in life. First of all, over here at a moral level, I would say that my misfortune is not a claim to enslave other people to take care of me. That is the first thing that I would say about it, right? Just because I am unfortunate doesn't mean you are no longer a free person with their own agency. You can choose to help me or you can choose not to help me, but it has to be your choice to make. Now, let me frame it. So this was from the framing of it's your choice to make, but now let's frame it from the point of view of, again, let's go back to our ant and the grasshopper, right? Like we have to distinguish between two types of people: the unfortunate ant and the grasshopper. So the unfortunate ant is working hard for a living as far as possible, doing as much as he or she can, but now she's in trouble due to some external circumstances like the ones we talked about. But the grasshopper is routinely in trouble because of his own reckless lifestyle, right? So these two people are not the same, and you cannot help them in the same way. To help the ant, you need to protect them from the negative consequences of the trouble that they're in. But if you try to protect the grasshopper in the same way, you're actually shielding them from learning that their own reckless actions are sabotaging their life. So you're not helping them, you're making them less accountable, less responsible. You are being complicit in them being even more reckless in the future, making even bigger mistakes in the future, and you're not always going to be around to help them. So do you want to let them learn when they make a small mistake, or again when you keep on bailing them out of it and then they eventually make a very big mistake? I often hear people say that, like, above all, be kind. And I appreciate the sentiment, but you can't just be kind. You have to be thoughtful first. For help to be effective, you need to have two components to it. It needs to be voluntary, and you need to know about the other person. Like you need knowledge about the other person. And if you think about large scale welfare programs at like the central, like federal level or even the state level, these people running the programs, they cannot have knowledge of every single individual's lives, and they can just see that the individual is in trouble, right? They don't have the full knowledge of, okay, like what kind of a person are we talking about? They will simply have to assume that no one is a grasshopper, something like that, right? So they don't have enough knowledge, where we would have that knowledge as a local community of the people around us, right? And then the second thing is, because they're not voluntary programs, because they might guarantee help to anyone in trouble, that itself can make someone a grasshopper. Right? No one of us is so pure that they will not eventually be tempted to take advantage of that guaranteed help. Like if help is always going to be around, sooner or later, statistically speaking, more people will take advantage of it, right? But if the help is not guaranteed, it depends on the reputation that you have built with your local community. Then people are less likely to abuse that help, to misuse that help. So for all of these reasons, and also the essay that we talked about earlier about the middle of the road leads to socialism, I do not adopt a middle ground in this position, but it's for people to think about where they land on this issue.
Now, the last part for this segment, the question I would like to ask you is, let's say if somebody, you or me, wants to start thinking capitalistically, like how should we begin? For example, are there any habits, skills, or perspectives, or any resources that we can leverage to know more about it? Because I'm pretty sure, like a lot of people here or a lot of people watching us do not have that awareness. Okay, so how do we get that awareness and how do we start like making small contributions on our own day-to-day life towards more capitalistic thinking and approach to have that in the society or in our country?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is, even before you start learning about economics, capitalism, philosophy, all of these things, just one thing you could do is just take responsibility for your own health. Because when you become the kind of person who cares about their own health, cares about their own future, then you're also more likely to take up the responsibility of thinking about our future, right? If you haven't reached the point of just even caring about your own health, then there's no way to sell you on future prosperity and flourishing, you know?
Yeah.
So even before any kind of reading, that's just one central thing to ground you. The other thing is, so on my YouTube channel, I have currently one long form and one short form video that provides an outline of the relationship between like capitalism and human flourishing. I'm hoping eventually to make it a full playlist, like playlist of short videos and playlist of long videos on this topic. For now, I just have one video in each playlist. But so it's an outline, but I think I go into more detail there than we could today.
Yeah.
And then also until then, I would also recommend 3 books as a starting point to learn more. There's Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt, The Law by Frederick Bastiat, and Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal by Ayn Rand.
Okay.
So I think that would be a good place for most people to start. And then the third skill would be, so the first skill is just taking care of yourself. The second skill is learning about this. And then the third skill is learning to communicate about this, right? So if you want to popularize this, you need to be able to talk to other people. And in that sense, you want to have a conversation with people that is not any more hostile than necessary, right? So you need to learn how to communicate effectively and try to keep conversations constructive and civil.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll add the details of the resources on the description on my YouTube like channel on this podcast. At the same time, you can definitely go ahead and I'll put the link to Yash channel on my description as well. So you can go ahead and watch his videos and subscribe to his channels to watch his future videos as well, because I'm pretty sure they will be full of knowledge and insights. So yeah, thank you so much. We are finishing segment 1 with this question, the last question. So let's start the segment 2 with you. Then we discuss about the life lessons that you learned in the 20s. So most of my guests are early 30s, like you and me, or like late 20s. And most of the audience, I believe, like teenagers and people who are in early 20s. So definitely the life lessons that we shared could be a little bit helpful in a general sense. In your 20s, there would have been times when things did not go according to how you wanted. How did you stay motivated in those circumstances?
Yeah, my motto is take extreme personal responsibility. Not everything that goes wrong with your life may be your fault. But the best thing you can do is take the responsibility to fix it instead of spending too long just being the victim in your own head.
Yeah.
And again, like fair enough, a lot of bad things happen to a lot of people and sometimes you are a victim, but I think you can't just wait for someone else to come and save you, right? So you need to have the mindset of taking the personal responsibility to do the best you can for your life. And it's okay, you'll fall down, just get up again and keep trying. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, 20s, did you find any people who could have given like, negative vibe, a negative energy? And basically, what are the symptoms or like, the identifiers to figure out which people are healthy for you and whom you should surround yourself with more and whom you should avoid? Or do you believe in this concept or any sort of human being passing by is okay for you.
No, that makes sense. I've seen people who, on their public profile, claim to be like best of the friends with some other people and like, oh, like them a lot, hang out with them. But then when they're with me, they're sort of not saying things that one would say about their best friend, you know? So yeah, so I think that is something that I would look out for. And because if you can't put up your authentic self, then I think that is something I have difficulty building trust around. So I would say that that is one of the things that's definitely stood out for me. The other thing would again be people who just constantly complain about their lives. And look, of course, we all get that there are some serious situations where, yeah, of course, like we can compare with our lives and be like, oh no, I definitely understand this is difficult. I don't know how I would deal with it. But at the same time, you often feel people who maybe had at least as much privilege as you, if not more, but they're just constantly complaining in life. So sometimes you have to be mindful of, does this person want me to uplift them or do they want to drag me down with them?
In your 20s, was there any small habit that you implemented which created a huge impact later on?
I think regular reading, more or less regular phases of exercise, I would say, help. Like basically the underlying idea is you need to train your mind and your body regularly. And when I say mind, I don't just, I mean both the emotional side and the intellectual side. So you need to like train your intellect, your emotional side, and your physical health.
Last question would be get to meet your 18-year-old version. What advice would you like to give him to live again 20s differently?
I would probably have done most things the same way. Maybe I would have encouraged my younger self to take out more time to just relax, because you can also make the mistake of just being extremely driven to the point of just waiting for a better future. So, but again, that would have been just a little bit of tweaking at most. And like, I also have to think that my younger self maybe remembered certain details that I don't today. And so he probably did the right thing.
That's great. So we come to the end of segment 2. Now I'll move to the segment 3, which is the fun and entertaining segment. So this I have kept so that, even though we try to get very insightful and knowledgeable content on the podcast, but want to keep the mood of the podcast entertaining and engaging. I'm pretty sure, I think the biggest chunk of audience for this podcast will be your friends, your family members. So yeah, definitely they'll get to see a fun side of yours, which they probably don't see every day. If you get a chance to swap your life with somebody for 24 hours, who do you think you would like to swap that?
Probably want to, of course, experience something that is like radically different from my own life. So like just living the life of a Steve Jobs for a day, just to figure out like how does that brain work? How does it feel to be responsible for billions? What I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's as easy as some people might imagine, and I can't imagine it. And then also there's another example, of a less familiar example, but there's a philosophy professor, Leonard Peikoff, who was the direct student of Ayn Rand, another philosopher who's no longer alive, like of the past. But it would have been just great to be in those conversations at the moment and get the kind of philosophical lessons and all that he got in that environment.
Okay. So I'm not sure, Yash, if you are into music or movies or anything, but still I would like to ask you. So if there is a background song that needs to be chosen to play on your life, so do you have any song in mind?
The song Socha Hai from Rock On. Because I'm always interested in like curiosity is one of my important things. Just like be curious, and almost everything will be interesting if you spend a little bit of time being curious about it. Yeah, I would say that would be a good one. Yeah.
Okay, great. So again, not sure if you are too much into food because you spoke about exercises and everything. So I feel like you are health conscious and health freak. But if you say if you like food and if you get to choose a comfort food, if I ask you to choose a comfort food where you like to go, at 2 a.m. or middle of the night or something, then do you have any food in mind?
I mean, my comfort food, even after all this time, it remains like the standard Indian roadside, like pav bhaji or like some kind of chaat and all. That's definitely the go-to comfort food. It's a struggle to be healthy. It's not easy to be healthy because I definitely have a tooth for it. But yeah, I would say something like that.
Have come to the end of episode 12. So, congratulations, Yash Arya. Your friends and family have to describe you in one word. What word would they use to just describe your personality?
And that actually immediately reminds me of my cousin who always used to say, Yashu, you're a old man in a young person's body.
Message would you like to tell our audience, tell to the show and to me?
Yeah, aim up, aim for flourishing, take responsibility for it. Things can be much better than you expect. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So thank you so much for removing 2 hours or 1 or 2 hours on your Sunday afternoon, actually recording this entire thing. And definitely, I think that the conversation that we have had on capitalism and economic freedom would be really insightful for our audience. And I hope they take away the lessons from it. And if there are any queries or anything, I'll be having all the details of Yash and his channel and videos on my description. So you can go ahead and subscribe and they can also reach out to you, and definitely looking forward to the feedback on this channel and what are people's thoughts and how are they thinking, because there are a lot of people, even though they don't publicly like put comments, they do reach out to me. If need be, we'll record more episodes in future.
Thank you, Javi, for this opportunity. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thank you.